From Mamma Mia, welcome to The Spill, your daily pop culture fix. I'm Laura Brodnick.
And I'm Ksenia Lukic.
And coming up today, we are talking about a bit of a wild sexual, well, at least a one-person sexual, we'll explain it, admission from one of our favourite actors, Matthew McConaughey. We're going to get into that. Lots to say, lots to unpack. Also, Wicked has broken some records at the box office, but that is not what people are talking about. They are talking about the relationship between Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo. There's a lot to unpack there. There's some things that people don't want to touch on, but we're going to dive into that. But first up, some movie news that has both thrilled and horrified me in equal measure. And that is the fact that the writer-director of my favourite Christmas movie of all time, that's true. I'm going to go on the record and say it. My favorite Christmas movie of all time. And not just that, one of my favorite movies of all time. And I've seen every movie in the whole world. So I feel like that's quite a big deal. And that movie is The Family Stone.
The pause there, the shock on my face when you said it was your favorite Christmas movie all time.
Yeah.
That floored me. It is a great movie. I will give you that.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, I love watching it at Christmas time, but I love watching during the year. I just think it's so beautiful. And I do love the holiday. I'm not a complete monster. But for me, The Family Stone, just something about it edges the holiday out.
Yeah. Okay. So.
And I don't love Love Actually. Like, I think it's fine if people like it. I think it's fine if people like it. It's not my personal fave. Like, I don't watch it every year on a loop like I do other movies. What's your favourite Christmas movie?
I like The Holiday.
Yeah.
I like The Grinch.
A solid choice, yeah.
I actually really like The Grinch.
Okay, well, The Grinch, I don't know if that's getting a sequel, but The Family Stone, it looks like it is, because Thomas Bezucha, who was the writer-director of the original movie, which came out in 2005, God bless that man, said that he is working on a sequel script at the moment. He's actually sitting down. He has put his fingers on the computer. He is typing. He's got ideas. He's talked to the cast. So many of them are keen to do it. And this is all fantastic news, because if there's one movie, like, I don't need a sequel to The Holiday because it's not my business what happened after that camera pulled away from the cottage. They all broke up,
but it's fine.
Well, that's what I think too. Yeah, I think that's just a moment in time. Whereas The Family Stone, if anyone hasn't watched it, first of all, The Family Stone has one of the best casts of all time. It's Craig T. Nelson, it's Luke Wilson, Dermot Mulroney, Rachel McAdams, Elizabeth Reese, Sarah Jessica Parker in one of her greatest roles next to Carrie in Sex and the City. It's a 10 out of 10 movie, and Sarah Jessica Parker plays this like kind of stuck-up woman who's dating her new boyfriend Everett, and she goes home to his family for the holidays.
She is unhinged in this movie. It's so funny.
But it's so good.
Like, if you look at it objectively, like, the movie's great, but if you look at it objectively, and it's just her like going and sleeping with her almost fiance's brother. Yeah, that bit's with 10
her
out of 10. Sister coming in, and then her sister
Claire Danes, who was 10 out of 10 in this movie as well.
Her sister ends up with her. It's like this really it's bizarre when you look at it objectively, but it is great.
So it's like they're like the Stone family, and they're this very kind of like bohemian arts liberal family, and then Everett is kind of like melded into being more like Meredith's uptight girlfriend, and it follows the events of like the day before Christmas, Christmas Eve, and then Christmas Day as things in this family get progressively crazier. My toxic trait is I'm a bit of a Meredith apologist. Not even Sarah Jessica Parker's a Meredith apologist, and she played her, but I'm just like, she didn't want to sleep in the same bed of her boyfriend at his family's house. Like, that's a bit weird and I wouldn't do it, but I understand why she didn't want to do it. Plus, Rachel McAdams, who plays Amy, the younger sister, is so mean in the best way possible.
But she's being protective. And
but I would cry too if that happened to me.
But one of the most iconic scenes from it is when they're all at dinner and, Sarah Jessica Parker's, they're talking about having a gay son.
Yeah, see, I fast forward that scene. So in my
really
version,
uncomfortable.
In my version of Family Stone, that scene doesn't happen.
And Diane Keaton goes, "Stop it!" And she slams her hands down on the table, and then Sarah Jessica Parker does her classic, and then she goes and hides in the car. But
I don't like that scene because it makes me sad for all of them because they're so upset, but then it ends in a cute way. Anyway, so we love that movie, I think is safe to say. And there's been talks for years about a sequel. And obviously this year, very sadly, Diane Keaton passed away. So Diane Keaton is the heart and soul of this movie, as she is for so many movies. She plays the matriarch of the Stone family, Sybil, and she is kind of like the catalyst for a lot of the drama and also like the beautiful warm moments. And there was always talk of how do we do, even before Diane Keaton passed away, how do we do a Family Stone sequel, because her character, and I hope this isn't spoiling it for anyone who hasn't seen this movie that's been out for 20 years, but still see it because like there's so much more we haven't said. Her character does pass away at the end of the movie, which is a huge kind of emotional turning point for everyone at the end and kind of like bookends where this story ends for this family. And so all the years about doing a talk of the Family Stone, the cast and writer always wanted to do it. But they're just like, can we have the magic there? The writer said that he has been mourning the loss of Sybil, her character, for many, many years. And that was the reason that they never really made a sequel. So recently he did say to CNN, the writer, Thomas, that he is now pushing forward with the sequel script in a way he never has before in order to honor Diane Keaton after her passing, which is really beautiful. And he said, I've been so haunted by the loss of Sybil for months that now while I worked on it, it was a blow on a tender bruise already, but I am moving forward. So it kind of looks like it could potentially be happening. Yeah. What do you feel about that?
And look, a lot of the other supporting cast have also said they would be eager to do it. Like even Sarah Jessica Parker said, you know, she would come back on and do a sequel. I do really love this. And I actually have, since Diane Keaton passed, I've been rewatching a lot of her, you know, most famous movies. And there's something about this movie that really strikes a chord, and it is one of those like classic Christmas movies that you can watch over and over again. And I'm concerned. I don't know where the story would go. I would love to know what the plan is.
I'm sure it would I think this is a little bit easier than some other franchises to pick up after both the death of a character and the death of an actor, because it could just be 20 years after the events of the first Christmas of them all coming back to that house again. It would also be like nearly 20 years after Sybil's death. They could really hook it off that. And, you know, I'm sure people have broken up. People are back together from that family where they all swapped partners. Their kids would be more grown-ups by now. Like, I feel like there could be. It would never be as good as the first movie, but I wouldn't mind checking in on the Family Stone where they are. It's a bit harder, I think, sometimes. Like, I think about like with the continuation of Gilmore Girls, and like one of the lead actors, the actor who played Richard, very sadly passed away in real life, and so his death had to be written to the continuation, and that just feels like this. It feels like it honors him, but it also feels like this kind of sad emptiness over that show in a way that I wish we hadn't delved into a world where Richard was dead. I wish we could have stayed in the original Gilmore Girls world. And then sometimes to honor the actor, like in the Fast and Furious franchise, after Paul Walker's death, their way to honor him was to not kill him in the franchise and to have his character go off and live this wonderful, happy, fulfilled life with his wife and child and still be part of that family, but just be off screen. So sometimes that is also a way to do it. They obviously can't do that here because the character did die, but it's a very, I think, difficult situation to navigate.
It also reminds me a lot of like when they do have to recast certain actors when they pass. Like most notably think of like Dumbledore in the Harry Potter series. When they had to replace the original Dumbledore, and you know, even Philip Seymour Hoffman, who passed away in the second half of the Hunger Games, it does cause a lot of can bring up some challenges, but I really hope that, and it seems like Thomas Bezucha is very conscious of honoring her, and he said that very, very directly. So I feel like he'll give it what it needs to be.
Yeah, exactly. So we have no information on whether the movie is officially going forward. We just know the script is in the works. And I actually think it really would honour Diane Keaton. It's one of her most memorable roles. And as fans of the movie know, the very last shot of the Family Stone is a very slow moving close-up shot of this beautiful black and white photo of Sybil, like of Diane Keaton as that character. So I think the movie ends on honouring her. Yeah. So the next movie could very much start on honouring her. So hopefully it happens.
Matthew McConaughey has made a confession on his Lyrics for Living newsletter. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, please tell me every detail.
Matthew McConaughey's wet dream led him to true love.
Yeah, perfect. I have no notes on that title.
I really never thought I'd be saying that sentence.
Really, I did. I always knew this was going to happen to us.
You knew that I was going to say.
I knew that in one day, given how that man speaks and the stuff he talks about, I just knew this was coming. Nothing about this was a shock to me.
Okay, so this newsletter that he writes, it's like poetry, it's musings, it's, life advice, and this is the sort of things that he talks about. Now, he talks about how he had this dream, and that is what led him to the marriage that he has now with Camila Alves. I'm going to read the majority of what he wrote, just word for word, and then we can kind of unpack it. I feel like such a prude when I say this because I've been floored by this. I had spent time with, and seriously dated some wonderful women in my life, many of whom I am still friends with today. But ultimately, they were all stops, no stays. In my mid-30s, I was looking for a lifetime lover, a best friend, and a mother-to-be. I was looking for more. I was looking for the one. I was looking for her. Then I had a wet dream. In the dream, this is not quoted anymore. Mm-hmm. In this dream, he describes a scene where he's surrounded by 22 women.
Sure.
And 88 children.
Yeah, actually that math does work out.
And he continues, each mother and I shared an idyllic memory. The children roosted upon my lap. We hugged, we kissed, we laughed and joked. We cried tears of happiness. They all gathered around me on the porch for a family photograph. And we looked down toward a large format box camera on a tripod, and at the top of the driveway, 3, 2, 1, then I came.
That is the most detailed wet dream I have. That has a storyline, that has backstory. He's describing the cinematography of the wet dream.
Yeah.
This is what happens when a true filmmaker has a sexual awakening in the night, that it's filmed in like a cinemascope vibes.
It's also the countdown, 3, 2, 1. And yeah. I don't know what it is about this particular sentence, but it made me just picture him going, ooh! Like,
I really hope it didn't sound like that. Otherwise, I'm not gonna. Because I've had quite a crush on Matthew McConaughey in many of his roles, and that just really ruined it for me.
I just had this, and this is, I think, why I gave it the ick so much, because I could really picture him just going 3, 2, 1, and then just like this. It floored me.
Yeah.
So I guess it's kind of romantic, because then he goes on to say, Matthew decided he decided to stop searching for the one because he's like, This was a turning point for me. This was a spiritual awakening. Mm-hmm. 3 months later, he meets Camila Alves, and they've been together for 20 years.
That's very cute.
And he then goes on to say that over the course of that 20 years, she's the only one that he ever wants to wake up to. So that's really sweet and romantic.
Yeah. Do you not like this story? I love this story.
I love the story. I'm very entertained by it.
I have a few doubts about whether it happened or not. I'm sure he woke up from a fuzzy dream and in his head, Matthew McConaughey loves to, which is fair. He's an actor. He's the main character in his own life. He loves to rewrite these stories to make them bigger than they are, is the vibe I get from him. So I think that's what he's done here. So he's just rewritten this, I'm sure, just a blurry wet dream that all men have to be this big cinematic life awakening. But I love it.
I might be a bit behind on my sexual health knowledge, but I didn't know men in their 30s still had wet dreams.
I don't know if I can speak to that, but I will say I don't think that
there's not many men in this office that we can ask either.
And I also just don't think that's the kind of thing we should do a poll or a vox pop on. I think we'll just leave the men alone. The men in this office go through a lot with us.
We're going to end up on the wrong end.
Yeah, let's save that. But I was going to say, do feel free to message us. Please don't. Don't tell us.
Please don't.
Look, but I do. What I know from my very limited knowledge in this area is that it does happen a lot in younger years, but I'm pretty sure it can still happen at any age. I don't know. Again, don't write in, but that's my vibe.
I have no idea.
I don't think he's lying.
I don't know. But look, the comments, the responses to this has been something that I've really enjoyed scrolling through. One comment that I loved, those are inside words, Matthew.
I think when you're Matthew McConaughey, they're not inside words.
I just love it. People are like, what the too much information. And I tend to agree. It really gives I feel like I'm not a prude. I'm very open about sex. I'm more than happy to talk about it. But there is something about the image that made me so uncomfortable.
Oh, see, I feel as far as wild celebrity sex stories go, this is pretty vanilla. Having a dream about meeting the love of his life that just happened to be the next beautiful woman that crossed his path. I mean, they're very cute. They've been together for a while.
They have.
And the thing that kind of makes me okay with is obviously I don't know them, but Matthew McConaughey and Camila Alvarez seem to have like this, I feel like she kind of tolerates everything he says publicly, and I feel like it's only a fraction of what she sees at home. So when you see him giving these crazy interview stories and stuff, and often because she always walks red carpets with him, she's often next to him just smiling serenely like she's so beautiful and so like calm, has a very calm presence that I could never aspire to. I just feel like she's like, oh, classic Matthew. And also this is a fraction of what he says at home. Well, and he comes from a very open family. Remember the fact his dad died having sex with his mum.
Yeah, wow. This is
and his mum was like, please do tell that story that they were having sex, and his dad, I want to say, had a heart attack, something like that, but passed away during a sexual act, and the family was like, tell that story. So I think he comes from a family of people who would just like to share what's going on.
Well, we know recently he was talking about how he and Camila, like, they got a queen size bed.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I thought was wild.
Talk about vanilla stories,
like,
guys.
That's even more wild than the wet dream for me. Like, how are you doing that? So, look, he's a strange dude. I love it. It's very entertaining. I've been thoroughly enjoying it. It reminded me that I feel like celebrities have this idea that everybody wants to know everything about them.
Yeah, we do.
Which I guess we do.
We do want to know
We have a whole
about
podcast about it.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't.
Yeah, I'm not judging people for that.
Maybe I shouldn't be doubling down on this.
I actually want Matthew McConaughey to talk. I know people in the comments, and I was looking at all the comments. Obviously, this story has got picked up and has gone everywhere because that is all the trappings of a good celebrity story. It has like an Oscar-winning actor. It has a wet dream. It has like the love of his life. It just all the makings of a great headline. And yes, the comments under it are all like, we don't want to hear this. Yes, we do. I want to hear more. I feel like this is just the tip of the iceberg of what that man could be telling me.
Yeah, look, my initial reaction was, ooh, which is also the same noise I made when we were doing
let's not do that again. It's not a word. I didn't do it. I also just think that this is just a little reminder that Matthew McConaughey is just the oddball of Hollywood. He's just a little oddball. And because he's been in so many rom-coms and action movies, and now he's transitioned to being a serious actor, he kind of passes for like a normal, bland movie star, cookie cutter celebrity, but in his heart of hearts, he's just a little oddball. Remember when he came to Australia and was like held hostage by his like host family? And he had a whole situation. Yeah, look up that story. It is crazy. Yeah, he came to Australia like on exchange and got wrapped up in this like craziness with his host family.
Before he was famous?
Yeah. Like when he was
like it was like a recent press story.
It was last week. No. When he was like a young teenager. And then there's all these stories. I remember Dax Shepard saying that he and Ashton Kutcher were on like a tiny island with him somewhere with Matthew McConaughey, and they're having this like, or like an island that was hard to, you had to get like a seaplane and a boat and all this sort of stuff. And they all wanted to watch this big football game the next morning. And they were partying into the night, and they're like, Matthew was like drinking and he was dancing on the beach and he was playing the drums. And the next morning they get up to watch this game, and they were like, where's McConaughey? And Ashton Kutcher turns on the TV and Matthew McConaughey is sitting next to the coach at the game. This is like in a different country with a headset on being like, let's go. And they're just like, how did he get there? And apparently he like chartered a helicopter in the middle of the night and flew himself to the game.
It's just Hollywood,
and they were like, that's normal. Like, you just never know Matthew McConaughey. Like, one moment you're on an island with him, you're having a drink. The next moment he's like coaching a college football game on the other side of the world. And that's just him. Everyone's like, that's just him.
But I feel like a lot of celebrities are like this. They really are very quirky and they are in their own worlds and they don't realize what they're saying is bizarre. Like, I don't think he wrote that thinking this is going to get some clicks.
Yeah.
Like, I think he just genuinely thought that this was like a spiritual awakening and that he wanted to share it with people.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's funny, because I'm like, you've convinced us you're in this bubble of Hollywood and Los Angeles where everything like this feels normal to you. Anyway, it's hilarious.
Yeah, I just think it's the only time again, I don't know her, but I'm thinking Camila, his wife, is probably just okay with him sharing this. The only
20 years.
The only story where he's shared about her where I was like, was she okay with that? Is when he was talking about her giving birth to, I think it was their first son, because they've got 3 kids. I'm not going to look this up, but I do think their names might be.
Oh, wait. We're going to test your memory again. I'm going to look it up. Hang on a second.
Okay.
Wait.
The last one I'm having a bit of an issue with.
All right.
Okay, I did not look this up. I just sometimes I, against my will, retain celebrity baby names. So Matthew McConaughey's kid's called Levi.
Yep.
Vida.
Yep.
Livingston.
Yep.
Is it really?
Yep.
Oh my God. Imagine the information that could be in my brain if I didn't know that. That is such useless information for me to have. Anyway, he was saying the story, like, I think it's when she was giving birth to Levi. He's like, yeah, she was giving birth. And he's like, and I was helping. And so I was just like on the drums and I was taking my shirt off and I was like, let's get primal with it. And I was like, I bet she was like, get out of here. I'm giving birth and you're on the bongos saying, let's get primal with it. It's like, sir, see yourself out. She has never said that. I'm potentially just reading into her thoughts. But I think when you're married to Matthew McConaughey, you just expect that.
Not that he ever would, but I could never be married to that man. Not that this is like an issue, but like that man, the things that he comes out with from his mouth is like my worst nightmare.
I mean, you know who I'd be married to? Matthew McConaughey, circa How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
Okay.
Peak Matthew McConaughey. I would put up with all the crazy bullshit for that. And I think
literally bullshit.
He has gotten crazier as time has gone on. There's that scene from Wolf of Wall Street where he just starts, So that was in the script.
No, it wasn't.
He just does that.
It's so good. I love that.
And you can see Leonardo DiCaprio's face through his character just be like,
what the hell
is
that became one of the most iconic parts of the entire movie.
And that's just him behind the scenes.
He's a weirdo and I love it.
So I guess my message to end to Matthew McConaughey would be like, tell more weird stories. Tell more sex stories. Tell with the consent of your wife, of course. Just tell me all the weird stories. I want to hear all of them. Well, from wild celebrity sex stories to my other favorite thing to talk about. And that's Wicked in all shapes and forms and incarnations, because it has been out now across the world. The new Wicked movie, Wicked for Good, it has been out in cinemas for over a week now. And we have some wonderful news, which is a few box office records that have been broken. So they actually doubled the number of domestic ticket sales, which is a huge thing. So this time they had the huge audience last time, but this time they had people like literally lining the streets to see this movie. It actually had the second biggest US opening of the year after a Minecraft movie, which actually was quite good, I thought. People loved it. And Lilo and Stitch, which obviously had this huge movie fan base there. So the global numbers make it the biggest international opening for a stage musical adaptation ever, beating out last year's Wicked movie, which had originally set that bar. So huge numbers there. And what a lot of people are talking about, along with their thoughts on the movie and the box office opening, is the relationship between Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo, which we've now seen for a second time on their second press tour.
So even though this particular press tour has been a lot more subdued than last year's, there has still been the exact same conversation happening as happened last year, because we got that really iconic press tour moment last year, which was holding space and the finger. We all remember that. It's become like enmeshed in our pop culture knowledge now. But this year things have been a little bit quieter, but still that same narrative of like Cynthia and Ariana's relationship has been really, really consistent. And that is that their relationship is, quote, weird and way too close. And now people are talking about how they're trauma bonded.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to put it, because I think obviously there was a huge focus on their off-screen relationship last year, but I think the conversation around them as co-stars and friends has actually changed quite dramatically over a year. So we only got really our first taste of it last year, especially when the press tour started right here in Australia. We had the world premiere, we had the first lot of interviews there.
Did you interview them?
I did interview them. And let me tell you what I saw. I find myself defending them quite a bit in terms of like how emotional they get.
I do too, and I think that comes from that sort of theatre nerd background, because there is this sense of like camaraderie and closeness that you get on a production, and they are literally on the biggest production of all time. And they're both theatre kids and they just love it. And that really brings people really close together.
Yeah, so these are obviously characters that they had loved it for over 20 years. Plus also when you're an actress and performer, you're already at an emotional level of a 15 most of the time, or you should be, to give a like proper performance. And I also think like a lot of the world saw them crying all the time in their interviews. But what they didn't see at the time, especially at that first premiere in Australia, was the literally hundreds of fans who had lined the streets for over 24 hours just to get a glimpse of them across the road at the State Theatre. And I literally saw these people sobbing.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, you must be sobbing for exhaustion. But any one of them that I asked, because I love to go talk to people online and ask, like, why did you line it for 24 hours? Like, I'm so fascinated by that. And I think it's such a beautiful thing to have that level of fandom. I can't imagine loving anything that much. Like, I love Wicked, but I would never line up for 30 hours just to get a glimpse of the premiere across the road. And they just were so happy to be there. And then even at the junket, people were crying. Like, other journalists I saw were crying going into the junket, and in the room afterwards when we were all waiting for our interview cards to be given to us with our interviews on them, people were crying in the room. And I'm like, well, of course Ariana and Cynthia are crying, because all they're doing all day is sitting across from people who are crying and telling them how much this means to them. So we had that, and I think by the end of that first press tour, people were starting to get a little bit like, oh, it's too much. And then for Wicked for Good, as you're saying, we had that very reduced press tour where they walked some red carpets. They did a few red carpet interviews. They did like a few little kind of bespoke interviews, but they didn't do that big press junket run that they had done originally. And I think some of the reason around that is that, one, they had kind of done so much legwork the first time and they were correct that there was a huge carryover to the second movie. But I do think they were trying to sort of make the focus more about the movie and the characters and the new songs, rather than putting a spotlight on the actors who were having a bit of a difficult time. But what has happened is that the focus hasn't been on the movie. The focus has been on these women and all these theories and stories, some of them quite dark and quite disturbing, that have popped up.
I want to be very conscious about how dark we get, because some of the accusations about them, I think, are more harmful than will do any good to talk about. A lot of people are talking about how they touch each other a lot. And in a recent interview with Amy Poehler, Amy asked Ariana about this, and she says, I channel a lot of energy through my hands, and so I'm always holding a hand. I'm always like squeezing or something. As you've learned, I'm always reaching for something sometimes. So that was her reasoning for the touching. I can relate to that. I feel like I become quite a physical person, so I can kind of understand that. The thing that I think is the most harmful is a lot of the conversation around their bodies.
Yeah, so there's been a bit of an escalation of different moments. So at first people, I think, were quite like bemused, but also like in a loving way, being like, oh, they're always clinging to each other. They always seem very overcome by all these lines of questioning. They're crying, they're hugging, they're talking about how they've changed each other's lives. And there was like a bit of, people question that, but also people kind of found it quite endearing this time around. Also because I think it's somehow felt like a very subdued press tour. It didn't have not that people didn't love the movie, and not that I didn't get from them that they weren't excited. And also I guess they're saying goodbye to these characters. Last time they were just like, hey, we'll see you guys in a year. This time I feel like there's a real sense of completion for them, that this moment is over. So the press tour has felt very subdued, and we're not getting all of those other moments to cling to. And there's been like some conspiracy theories because for the last premiere, after the whole thing had happened with the fan running at Ariana and Cynthia jumping in front of her and all of that stuff, after that happened, it came out that Cynthia Erivo wasn't going to do interviews at the next big premiere, which was one of the final premieres, because she said she had lost her voice. And then Ariana came out and said that she also wasn't going to do interviews in solidarity with Cynthia. And so then the conspiracy started that they had just been they were so traumatized by the press and that incident that they didn't want to talk to people, and that was kind of an excuse. And then Ariana Grande came out and said that she had COVID-19 and would have to pull out of some press duties for Wicked. And then all these conspiracy theories started, and this has gone rampant in like forums and like some news sites, TikTok especially. Like for me, it's every second video is this conspiracy theory that Ariana Grande lied about having COVID-19 to stay away from the press line. And one of those things is about what you're saying about this conversation around her body. And I've seen so many people just say straight to camera this completely unfounded accusation. Ariana Grande lied about having COVID-19 to hide her eating disorder, which is a crazy take to say for someone that we have no idea what's going on in her life.
I have a lot of issues with this for a number of reasons, but it's not just about Ariana. It's now extended to Cynthia Erivo, and to Michelle Yeoh. To a slightly lesser extent, but the amount of videos I've seen of people doing before and afters upsets me, because I do feel like it is indicative of a bigger issue with, you know, the way that we talk about women's bodies in Hollywood. But I don't think we should be diagnosing people's medical issues. And it feels very, very, it's upsetting to me, this narrative.
Yeah. And I understand that, like, when you see those videos that are put out into the world, they can be confronting and people want to talk about them, because what we're seeing is these photos of, and some of these taken over a decade ago, some of these photos and videos of, in particular, Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, showing these changes in their body and showing how they looked one way in the past while working on other projects, and now showing that they seem to have much smaller frames, in particular in this press run that they're doing at the moment, where, you know, they're getting photographed from every angle and filmed from every angle. And so their bodies are on display in such a huge way that they really can't control what images are going out there, because it's just on every platform. And the narrative that has come from that is people are linking all of these different things and they're saying that they've gone through a lot together. They're talking of these past events. They appear to be like very trauma bonded, and their bodies look drastically different and smaller. And these questions are like, what happened on the Wicked set? What's happened to them? And it's painted this narrative which is very flimsy, and I think kind of takes away from actual real issues that could be discussed here. This very flimsy narrative that they went through some kind of terrible trauma during the many years that they filmed Wicked, because they filmed the two movies back to back. So it was this huge shoot, that they went through this unspeakable trauma and their bodies have shrunk as a result of that. Yeah, which I feel like is a long bow to draw.
They're also sort of saying, they're comparing it to the things that happened on the set of The Wizard of Oz back in 1939, which is very famously one of the most traumatic sets that has ever existed. You know, we've got all those stories of the Tin Man having lead poisoning. We've got the Judy Garland being starved and given uppers and downers. It's very, very well reported on the set of that movie. So people are making a connection between the two, calling it like the Wicked Curse or Wizard of Oz curse. I would like to just be very careful about feeding into that narrative.
Yeah, and this is what I hate about conversations like this is, like, one, I don't think we should ever be centering. I think there's a way to have a conversation about the stigma around weight at different sizes. I think there's a conversation to be had about body inclusivity, especially in Hollywood, because we've seen a real slide back on that. I never think that you have to use specific women or bodies or photos. And I know that sounds hard, but I've done it many times. I've written a lot about the way we look at bodies, especially on famous women, and the way that there's not a lot of diversity in the movies and TV shows we're watching. And every time I've done that, I have never named any specific women, used any specific photos. So for everyone who's kind of centering in, I just think there's a way to have this conversation without putting a woman or like two co-stars in the firing line of any kind of conversation. It's also not their job to sort of advocate for any level of body diversity. Like, that's not even a conversation for the Wicked press tour.
No.
Is what I'm thinking. I think there's definitely a conversation to be had about Hollywood body diversity, but this is not the place for it. But I also think if people want to assign trauma to these women that they themselves have brought up a few times and said, like, they haven't said the words we're trauma bonded, but they have said we've been through so much together. They're talking about things they've been through. Like, they are actually
on the press tour,
on the record, and they have for many years talked about things they're going through. And I'm like, why don't we look at what they're actually saying instead of what their bodies look like in this particular case? Because Ariana Grande has talked about going through really immense post-traumatic stress disorder, grief and depression at a time when she was making a lot of back-to-back albums and touring. And she even has said in a profile to Vogue, I mean, she said this many times, but just in this particular profile, she said, I'm a person who's been through a lot and I don't know what to say about it, even to myself, let alone the world. But I'm sort of trying to say. And she hasn't touched on every piece of trauma she's gone through, but we do know that she was
nor should she have to.
No, absolutely not. But she's also, you know, she was very close friends with Mac Miller before they began a romantic relationship, and then his death. She has talked about hitting her really hard. Also, you know, the Manchester bombings, which she still talks about this to this day, of being this huge trauma that affected her and so many people. And again, I think that is when she talks about trauma and like what happened to her at that fan event the other day, like they are intrinsically linked in this term of like she doesn't feel safe in a crowd and she feels very protective of the crowds around her after what she went through. And so I think she's talking about that. And Cynthia Erivo has also said that when she met Ariana, they had this instant connection because they had this artistic connection, but she has said that she recognized her as a person who has been through so much trauma and essentially needed to be protected. And then Cynthia Erivo, I mean, she hasn't talked about it. I mean, she hasn't in a way talked about a lot of things that she's been through in her life, but I think we're about to learn so much more about Cynthia Erivo's story. And I think it's very telling that this is happening after this huge press tour for these incredible movies, and like hopefully she'll win an Oscar. But she does have a memoir coming out called Simply More, and a few of the chapters and stories from that book have started being released as she does press for it. And she has had she's had this crazy successful life, but she's also had a really difficult life, especially with some of the things to do with her family. She talks about being estranged from her father and them having this kind of moment where he just left her on a train platform and their life has really never been the same. And she talks about him not being the person who should be her dad and how difficult that has been. She talks about she's close to her mother and sister now, but having to rebuild relationships with them. And she talks about people not like her family in particular, not accepting her queerness and having to hide that and the trauma she's been through, and why she's so big on giving back now. And she still goes back and is like a board member on like the school that she trained at. She goes back and visits her old school and all these kind of things of like, I really think that she's only kind of touched on the things she's been through in her life. And so I just think that she and Ariana, like, again, I don't know what happened to these women. I have no idea. But I would surmise from the story they're telling us that I don't think trauma happened to them on the Wicked set. I think they were on that set just attached to the hip, it kind of seems.
Yeah.
And then all of the trauma that they went through was shared between each other. And so when they're walking down those red carpets and they're hearing that crazy roar of the crowd, they're holding on to each other because
it's
of
a sense
everything.
of safety.
Yeah, because of the stories they told each other on the set, not because something terrible happened to them on the set. As far as I know. I mean, I wasn't there.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine how, challenging it would be to be in those situations where it is very overwhelming. If you and I were at that premiere in Sydney at the States Theatre for the original Wicked, it was insane. Can you imagine being yelled at like that day after day after day after day?
Those movie premieres give me
overstimulated.
Absolutely. Those movie premieres give me so much stress. I didn't go to one this week because I'm really stressed this week and busy. And so there was a huge premiere here in Sydney and I just knew it would be people knocking into each other and people screaming. And I've been at that location before and have nearly had the barricades tip on top of me because people were trying to trample my body to get to the movie star next to me. Not that that's I'm not saying that's poor me, I have to go to premieres, but I'm just saying like on the even as like someone who's not involved in it, who's just there, like those events are a lot. And I think if they're happening to a person who's already quite in a stressful situation, you're the center of it, that would be a lot. But yeah, I just think it's interesting how the narrative around the lead actresses of Wicked has kind of changed. And I've got to say, I don't love it.
I don't love it either. It's become
don't we all remember? We love Wicked, guys. We love Wicked. We love them. Like that's it.
I do feel like it's a bit of a result of people just like trying to find conspiracy theories in everything. Like there always has to be some kind of,
and we can never keep a happy story.
We've got to put that spooky music that people have on TikTok. Like let's put that over every single interaction that anyone has with anyone, and we can create a conspiracy theory. So I agree with you. Let's enjoy Wicked for what it is.
I know
these two incredible actors who have portrayed these iconic characters, and they've had to say goodbye to them, which is very sad for us. Although I have heard rumors that this potentially could be a third.
I mean, I would love that, but
I would love that. But I know.
All I would say, they're definitely getting nominated for Oscars.
100%.
And so all I'm saying to all of you people out there making the weird TikToks is that this best not carry over to their Oscar moment, because I just want that to be them hugging on the red carpet, them singing on stage. They both get their original songs, which will be nominated, and I just want it to be like this like beautiful, crazy love fest that theatre kids like live for, and just like leave the naysayers the door.
We've been waiting for this for a really long time. Please don't ruin it.
Yeah.